Hi friends. I felt really guided today to talk about loneliness and how that feels, why we feel lonely, how we can understand what's behind the loneliness and set ourselves free eventually from the belief that we can be lonely. So I wanted to start by sharing from my book, The Ripple of Awakening, a mighty companion on the spiritual awakening journey. Because for me, as I was going through my awakening, I did feel lonely many times, and I needed a mighty companion to help me and to reassure me. And it was always there, but however, I didn't always connect to it. But also we need those mighty companions in form, as in a body, to reassure us, to help us, to guide us when we feel lost and lonely. So this particular section is from chapter 10, and the chapter is entitled Building Trust and Faith. And the particular part, as I say, I wanted to share is about an experience that I had when I was in my fairly sort of early days of the spiritual awakening. And anyway, I'll read it, and I hope you find it helpful. I remember in the early days of my divorce, as I was learning how to walk on my own 2 feet again, how frightening it felt. Because somewhere along the line, I had lost the ability to trust my own strength and inner guidance. I had learned to fill up my time with action and doing, and had become mostly dependent on my husband and family as my means of entertainment, love, and supply. I vividly remember one particular occasion when the kids were staying with their father, and I was feeling anxious at the prospect of being on my own. I felt an overwhelming feeling of emptiness and inferiority, believing that I was the only person in the world who was on their own, with visions of happy families, lovers and friends everywhere having the best time. And there I was, with the ego message banging around in my head that I was a total loser, a failure, and quite frankly, deserving of being all alone. In desperation, I tried ringing a couple of people to offload, but no one answered. The universe was quite clearly saying to me, "Hey girl, nowhere to run to. It's just you and me." This was not a prospect I relished, and I felt totally bereft at the realization of having nowhere to run to and nothing to fill the gap with. The void of all voids, with Grand Canyon proportions, was now staring me right in the face. I knew it was time to face this head on. I've then interjected with a quote, which is, "Now that I've cleared your schedule, let's talk." God, by God. It never felt more apparent at that moment that God had cleared the schedule for him and I to talk. I'd been learning to connect to my feelings and to acknowledge them. So I tuned into the feeling of emptiness and churning in the pit of my stomach and identified it as loneliness. I owned it and said out loud, "I feel lonely." I think this was one of the first times I had been brave enough to sit with the overwhelm and not abandon myself through my usual distractions. Instead, I knew it was time to just sit with myself in that space and give myself permission to really feel the loneliness for the first time. And as I did, an avalanche of tears poured from my being as I crumbled to the floor and sobbed deep waves of grief and pain. I was literally and metaphorically on my knees, and this was the deepest level of surrender I had ever dared to experience. When I eventually stopped crying and my body began to find stillness, I looked up from the floor and leant against the side of the bed. There were no more tears to cry. The wailing ceased, and my body became silent, and everything melted away. A deep, deep sense of serenity and peace filled my entire being as I gave way to the ocean of love that had eluded me for so long. Wow, I had done it. I was exhausted, but so very alive. I had at last given myself permission to give up the fight, and the hard exterior of protection had melted away. After that experience, I knew that whatever else happened in my life, I had a way to be with uncomfortable feelings, and that I didn't need to run away anymore. The door of the self-imposed prison was now open, and the liberation I felt showed me, without any shadow of a doubt, that my relationship with my higher power was intact and always there for me. And with that love, I was capable of coming through any dark night of the soul. What also transpired was a clearer awareness of how I had been so diligent, being a diligent spiritual student, striving for enlightenment, and so very lost in the searching for some spiritual band-aid to make it all better, that I had inadvertently just created another ego construct to live by. It's hysterical, really. And once I understood the ego's seek and do not find mentality, I began to settle into a much calmer space. Most of us get stuck in this sticky web of confusion when we are a spiritual seeker and are trying to find the next answer. But what happens in reality is that we just continue down the ego's path, blinded by its clever distractions, like a siren luring us onto the rocks again and again. But to be truly free, we need to give up the false gods and idols we give power to. We make idols of our job, our religion, our qualifications, our material possessions, our body, our children, our partner, our politics, our food, our phones, our cars, our planet, our money, and so it goes on. And I share a beautiful quote from A Course in Miracles, from lesson 140. So do we lay aside all our amulets, our charms and medicines, our chants and bits of magic in whatever form they take. We will be still and listen for the voice of healing, which will cure all ills as one, restoring saneness to the Son of God. No voice but this can cure. Today we hear a single voice which speaks to us of truth, where all illusions end and peace returns to the eternal, quiet home of God. So if we just take a moment to just rest in that beautiful quote, the promise from God, just like that experience that I had, where I completely surrendered. I'd given everything up. I held on to nothing. Which of course is a very scary prospect. But as I discovered that day, the peace that came and the love that I felt was so pure, so divine, so soothing, all-encompassing. I needed nothing else. I was complete. And the truth is that every moment that is available to us, without exception. It doesn't matter what religion you have, whether you perceive yourself as spiritual, whether you perceive yourself as a bad person that's done something wrong, that you're not worthy of this love, or just in complete disbelief that it exists. I'm here to tell you that it does exist for everyone, and there is absolutely no exception to that. And this is the path that we are on when we're awakening to the truth, that everything our heart's desire is already within us. It's already there. It is not outside of you. And those idols that I mentioned is what we give our power to. And that isn't a judgment. It's just what happens. We've been trained to do that. But they will never give us complete happiness. It's impossible. But when we are fully sustained by the love of God, of our higher power, we're full with that love, then we're not seeking outside, we're not needy, we're not grasping, we're not desperate, we're not lonely. And then the relationships and the things that are in our lives are great, but we don't need them for our happiness, for our completion. And then we're free. We're truly free. And after that experience, I knew that I could never be lonely again. I'd gone to the place I didn't want to go to, or the ego didn't want me to go to. I went there. And I am so grateful for that experience, because I know that if I just tune in to the source that's there, how could I be lonely? It's impossible. Absolutely impossible. And I spoke with a friend the other day who'd come to that point where she felt so lonely. This gulf, this pit, this desperation. And I believe that most of us who are truly serious about awakening to finding who we are will have to go through that in some form or another. But I want to tell you right now that it's not as bad as you think. And actually, by owning it completely is the doorway and the surrender. So, in truth, we can't be lonely. And I can honestly say I have never felt lonely again. There's times when I've been alone, but that's very different. It's very, very different. And knowing that that supply, that love is always there, is just, well, it's priceless. You really can't buy it. And that's what many of us do. We try and go out into the world to fill the void. So I'll continue a little bit more with the book. This is where discernment and radical self-inquiry are so important if we are to transcend the ego's way. It takes a lot of practice to listen to the voice of love over the voice of fear. But if we are committed to the truth, this really is our only work. We have to wake up each day with a vision of a blank canvas, or as the Zen philosophy encourages, a beginner's mind. And in my experience, God will guide us to paint the picture and supply all we need to do so. We can then get our hands off the proverbial steering wheel and take our seat on the passenger side and enjoy the ride. Everything you need is already here, right now, and will continue to be so each day of your life in physical form. Because you are always cared for and supported by God. All your needs will be met. And when Eckhart Tolle wrote his book, The Power of Now, this is exactly what he meant. The power is here, now. So let's just give up the search. This is the big one, folks, and can save you many years of fruitless seeking and suffering. And I have seen time and time again where the know-it-all mentality has actually taken the seeker further and further away from their truth. I don't want that for you. I want you to wake up now. I want you to join me and all the other mighty companions who are increasing the ripple of transformation and saying yes to a divine and guided life. But you have to stop distracting yourself. So I'll leave it for now from the book, but it's a part of the awakening journey that if we truly want to, as I say, find this eternal peace and joy and freedom, we have to go through. We have to look at where we're giving our energy to, our time, our distractions, the way we just keep going out into the world to get, to fill. And yes, it gives us a temporary high, a temporary fix, but it will never completely fulfill you, as I said. It just can't. And that is the point where the self-inquiry and the realization that everything we need is already here now. But of course, the ego wants to keep us seeking, but not finding. And even, the word spiritual can be used as a distraction, as I certainly experienced, where I thought I knew it all. I had the qualifications, I had the experience, but it was just another distraction, the I know mind. And thank God, through, as I say, deep inquiry and willingness to be at peace, I've realized that that was another ego facade that I wore. And it's a hard one to admit. It's a hard one to see. It's even in, the roles that we play in manifesting what we think we want as well. And that's another phase I had to undo, because I've realized that seeking is just, as I said, keeping me from the now. It's keeping me from where the source is, where the guidance is, where the love is. And what else do we really need but that love and that guidance and that security? As I say, which is there all the time. And it's beyond this body, it's beyond this world, it is eternal, it continues, and it will always continue. And can we say the same about other bodies, about other things in the world? We can't. Nothing lasts. And that's not saying we can't have relationships and other things, that's what I'm saying, but that's not the destination, that's not the goal. And all the spiritual sages and mystics and awakened ones have come to find this. And it comes in the stillness and the presence of now. Just being able to stop and learn to trust. And I know it takes time, but if not now, when? When are you going to start to be here now? And I understand it's so easy to distract. I really do. But unless we know this is going on, how can we change? How can we start to recognize the things we've used as false idols and false gods? So before I close this, it would be lovely just to sit in some silence for a few moments so we can be completely present. To just notice how you're feeling right now without any judgment. If anything I shared has upset you or triggered you, or you feel a judgment or any slight grievance, this is good news. So let it be here, right now. Just let it be here. Notice what you notice. You may even feel sensations in your body, tightness or anxiety, anger, overwhelm. It doesn't matter what it is, just let it be here. And that clearly shows there's something that needs to be healed, to be released. Because when we're in perfect unity and harmony with God, all we feel is peace and joy and love and ease and happiness, and love that we just want to extend. So just be willing to own the feelings that you have right now. And trust that there is a higher power available to you, whatever you call it, that loves and adores you right now. They want to help you. You have to be willing to expose this darkness, the shame or the guilt, whatever it may be. And then that's how it can be healed. It can be given to the light of love, of God, of the universe, for healing. And we hand it over, like I did that day, when I just admitted that how lonely I felt. And then the healing came. It just melted away. And I didn't have to do anything in form to fix it. I just had to let it go to the one who loves me and ask for help. That's all you're asked to do, my friend. You don't have to analyze it, pick it to death, or go over it again and again. No. Just bring it out into the light. And just be here now, breathing, allowing your soul to just soften, your spirit to awaken and shine. To rest in the divine ripple of love. And trust that your prayer, the calling of your heart, has been heard. I wish you great peace, eternal joy, endless love, and a heart wide open to receive and give the love that you are. Thank you. Wishing you a blessed day. You may wish just to rest and allow this to percolate through your entire being. Thank you. Much love.